Welcome to the first video in our series, You Asked For It, where I give you an opportunity to ask tough questions about the Bible, God, or life, and I will attempt to answer it. So the first question that was given to me was, why do we pray if God already knows everything? How does prayer even work? Is there any point to prayer if God has already decided how everything is going to be? Well, thanks for a real easy question to start this off. That was sarcasm, by the way. But it is actually a really good question, and it's one that I've struggled with myself. We pray all the time. Our church services are filled with prayers. We ask for prayer requests. We hear about people who are sick or who are having an operation or tests, and we pray for them. We pray for those who have lost their jobs, that God would provide the finances, that they would get a new job. We pray all of these things, but at the same time, we hold to the belief that God already knows everything. So, how does prayer fit in with that? Well, there are a couple of interpretations. One is that prayer is not about changing God or God's plans, but is simply about us being changed. That in our time of prayer, God is transforming us, is drawing us closer to Him, and it is something only for our spiritual benefit. It's not about affecting how things will turn out. Well, I have some problems with that. One of the problems is that the Bible seems to point towards prayer having an effect on things. But another thing is, let's just take it for the sake of argument that prayer is only for benefiting us, for drawing us closer to God. When we are drawn closer to God, that affects us. That affects the way we live. It affects the things that we say. It affects the things that we do. And so, in many ways, when we pray and are changed in that experience of prayer, we are affecting how the future will be. So, we have to take these things into account as well. Uh, as I said, that the Bible does seem to say that prayer does change things. And one of the most famous passages about that is from 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. It says, "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land." Notice it says, "if my people." And then it goes on to say, "then I will hear from heaven." So it is giving us a basic if-then statement. If we do this, then God will do that. If we pray, God will respond in a certain way. And so we are left trying to figure out how that works. Now, some people might say that God is determining that we would pray in a certain way. And so it is all part of God's plan. We don't actually even have a say in whether we pray or we don't pray. We don't have a say in what we pray about. God has already predetermined how that will all work. I'm not convinced of that either, because the Bible, not just in the Old Testament, but right through into the New Testament, including the Lord's Prayer, encourages us and commands us to pray in certain ways. And the assumption seems to be that we have a choice. Either we are going to pray or we are not going to pray. So I think that there has to be more to it than that. The only answer that I've been able to come up with is that God, when He looks at all of history and looks at all of the things that will take place, He understands and knows about the prayers that we would pray. In fact, even before the creation of the world, God already knew who we would be and what we would pray. And I believe that God takes those prayers into consideration when He is determining how the world will be and the things that He will do. So our prayers do mean something in a certain way. We need to take them seriously. We need to pray for those who are going through difficult times. We do need to pray for ourselves as well. But we shouldn't get into a trap of thinking, well, God has already figured out how everything is going to go, so we shouldn't bother. We need to trust that, yes, God knows the past, the present, and the future, but He also knows the ways that we have prayed and the ways that we have neglected prayer. And all of those things are taken into account. And somehow, in that mystery, we are left with a Christian life that has prayer as a foundation. So, yes, we need to affirm that God knows everything, but we need to continue to pray. And we need to pray in faith, hoping and trusting that God hears those prayers and that He will answer them according to His will.